This is Warren Vanderhill talking with Rachel Lipp at her home in Fort Wayne, March 2, 1979. Mrs. Lipp, I wonder if you could begin our taping session today by telling me a little bit about your grandparents, who I understand from our preliminary conversation came to this country from the old country.
Oberkirchen, Germany.
Oberkirchen, Germany. Mm-hmm. When did they come? Do you recall anything about that? Or,
Yeah, in 1852. And they went to Cambridge, Ohio. You've got it.
Okay.
And then they moved into Indiana, into Frankfurt. And from then on, the family stayed there. The house that my grandmother built is still standing in Muncie, at the corner of Cherry and Main. It's about to fall down. I was by there not too long ago, and I felt very bad. It was a beautiful, beautiful home. Great big one. In fact, she built two right behind it on Cherry Street, and the house is still there at the corner of Cherry and Main.
What did your grandfather do then when he came to Muncie as far as his professional life? He was in the clothing business.
Yeah.
Is that then how your father happened to go into clothing?
I think all the boys did. I have another Uncle Sam, who was in Newcastle even, in business. And most of them, this is what they did.
Yeah. So as you remember it, as far as any remarks that your father may have made,
please let me correct you.
Oh.
I wouldn't remember. I was about 3.5
That's right.
years old when
yeah,
my
that's
father
right.
died.
We should establish that your father did pass away
Yeah.
when you were 3.5 years old. Well, perhaps from other people in the family, was it sort of expected that boys in your family at this time would follow their parents into the business?
No, not especially. No.
So there were other people in your family who went on to different occupations?
Well, let's see, Uncle Lou, my father, and Uncle Sam, they all did the same thing.
So there's a lot of consistency here.
Yes, there seemed to be. Seemed to be.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about some of the specific things about just what your father did in the clothing business in Muncie?
He was in the retail business with his brother, and then branched out and went into this business of organizing and putting on sales for people in the clothing business. He went from town to town. They wanted something put together. That was Dad's job.
I see.
But he traveled, see.
But he had an office in Muncie.
Must have done his office work, I imagine, at home. I don't know. I really can't give you the answer.
Okay.
My brother could. If I could. How long is it going to take you? We're on tape.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. But I think that's one of the things.
When would you want that information? How soon? Bud will be back.
Oh, if you could get it to us in the next month or so, that would be fine. You could give it to Joe Levine or send it to me.
Well, I'll try to as fast as Bud gets back from Florida.
They'll
be back.
Be
well, I will, because he will be home. I talked to him the other night, and they'll be back from Marco. And Rudy can tell you quite a bit more about it because he's 8 years older than I am.
Yeah. So he could give us some specifics about just what the business was like and what sorts of things they did. That would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, could you tell us then more specifically about yourself, what it was like to grow up in the Muncie that you remember? What was the community like? Perhaps you could comment on your views as a young girl of the Jewish community.
I had no problems in Muncie whatsoever among friends. They were all among the Gentile friends, except when I was real young. Bessie Roberts, Raymond Roberts, I think we call him what's happened to them? Bill Deutsch. Very small Jewish community among the young people, but I went with all of the other Gentile people.
Mm-hmm. So as far
and I even went to the Christian Science Sunday School. I went to the Methodist Sunday School because we didn't have a rabbi all the time. And the family allowed me to do this. It didn't bother them. And I had an aunt who was quite a Christian Scientist.
So you certainly had as many friends who were Gentile.
Oh, more.
More Gentile.
More Gentile friends. I've grown up schools in Muncie and Danville.
You didn't particularly feel then any kind of discrimination?
I did not.
So
And I really was too young to realize too much about the Klan. But I do know that that's why I was taken out of Muncie and put in school at St. Mary of the Woods.
Where is St. Mary of the Woods located?
Terre Haute.
Terre Haute.
Outside of Terre Haute.
Well, if you know that to be the case, that is to say that Klan activity, which reached a peak in Muncie in
It really did.
the 1920s, mid-1920s.
Yes, it did, and that's when I left.
You were told that this is the reason you
Afterwards.
Afterwards.
After I was older, I was told.
Who made the decision that you were going to go over to school in Terre Haute?
And Julie and Uncle John in Danville, because they sent me.
Oh, I see.
Sure.
So they were aware of the fact that
The whole family.
that the Klan had
sure.
not only played an important role in Muncie, but in the entire state of Indiana.
Indiana, certainly.
All right, so when you went to school, initially in Terre Haute, then I believe you said a few moments ago you went on to school someplace else.
Yes.
Where was that?
In Gulfport, Mississippi.
Gulfport, Mississippi.
Yeah.
How long did you stay there?
2 years. And 4 years at St. Mary's. Junior college.
Right, then
I went back to Danville.
Then you went back to Danville. Okay. Then you mentioned that after that time you came back to Muncie.
From about 1931, about 2.5 years. And then I went back to Danville.
What did you do when you were in Muncie during that 2.5 year period in the 1930s? Were you working there at that time, or?
I've never worked.
Oh, I see.
I did in Danville when I was there because we were in the ice cream business manufacturing, and Uncle John thought I should be doing something because I wasn't back in school, and I worked down in the office. The factory, well, that's the only one, and that was not a paid job, believe me, as far as salary was concerned, but it kept me occupied.
Well, you have certainly lived most of your adult life here in Fort Wayne. I wonder then, since you have a very different perspective.
Well, I was 26 when I moved.
26 when you came here. Could you give us some comments that would provide some contrasts, as you see them, between the Jewish community in Fort Wayne and the Jewish community in Muncie?
Well, it is a much larger community here. And for that reason, there was a great deal, there still is a great deal more done in Jewish education than there ever was in Muncie.
Did you have any kind of Jewish education in Muncie when you were growing up?
Well, I was confirmed. Yes.
Was there
very little, but you see, we had a rabbi only on a weekend, so often for the confirmation class. There was no full-time rabbi.
Was there a temple school?
Sunday school. Yeah. I think there was. Yes.
What about your home life in Muncie? Do you think that Jewish values were important in your home as you remember?
Well, we were not Orthodox Jews. Our background was completely German. On my father's side, my mother was a French background. No, I hate to say it, but very honestly, no.
Well, you already mentioned that you'd gone to different Sunday schools.
Yes,
it shows a lot of tolerance.
Right. Very tolerant family. A lot of intermarriage in my family. The uncle, the aunt that I lived with, my aunt was my father's sister. She married a Gentile. And he did everything in this world for me. And my other Aunt Carrie was married to a Gentile, a Maccabee. My brother has been married to a Gentile girl. A lot of intermarriage in my family, and I grew up without any feeling of any kind of strangeness among Gentile people. I expect I've been more at home.
Yeah, that was my question.
That's it.
You feel
I
you're
really, yes.
at home in both
Oh,
communities?
yes, definitely. My friends in Danville were all Gentiles, and still are friends. I'm still in touch with them. Most of my friends in Muncie who are dead, gone.
So you can't think back on examples of anti-Semitism. This really wasn't something that really struck you.
No, not really. Although I knew that it existed, very definitely it did. But I was never made to feel uncomfortable ever.
And this applies not only...
Put it all on tape.
I mean, this applies also to Danville as well as Fort Wayne. So you're commenting on 3 cities here, really. Muncie, Danville, and Fort Wayne.
And I have never been made uncomfortable by it. Never in Muncie, and certainly never in Danville. And in Fort Wayne, you have a large Jewish community, and you are thrown together. Mm-hmm. Although I have many Gentile friends here, too. Mm-hmm. But I have never felt, and if I did feel it, and had to be with people, and I knew it, I'd walk away. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be where I'm not wanted.
Did the Jewish community or the temple in Muncie, when you were a young girl there, sponsor any youth activities that you...
I don't believe so at that time, no. I think in the first place it was too small a community, and they weren't doing the things then that they do today. Mm-hmm. The Jewish children today are really being educated.
That's true.
In religion, they are.
Yeah, I know.
They're stressing it.
There's been a revival of that in the past couple of decades.
And I think it's important. I think it's wise that somebody should be made to feel. I think what they have to be taught is tolerance on our part, as well as we expect tolerance from the Gentiles.
Do you think that there's more tolerance in America today as far as religious groups are concerned than there was when you were growing up?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I think there isn't quite as much bigotry as we had at that time.
Why do you think that's true?
I think the war did it.
World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
A number of people make that same comment.
Yes, I do. I think the whole world learned a lesson. Things that happened that no one would have believed that could happen. And now we know it can happen.
Could you tell me a little bit more about how you happened to come to Fort Wayne?
Yes, glad to.
The mobility pattern of your life?
Yes, I will. The aunt with whom I lived in Danville became ill. And my family had always, for years, come up here to Fort Wayne to Dr. Rosenthal, who was a very, very fine doctor. And Julia came back here and was at St. Joe Hospital here and under Dr. Rosenthal's care, and she had cancer. And she wouldn't go anyplace else she didn't want to be. He was here, I don't know how long in the hospital, but I was ill in Danville, and when I was well enough, I had acute arthritis, a strep infection. And they could bring me, I came up here, and I stayed here too, and Dr. Rosenthal took care of me. And then I met my husband here, and was married, and he was still living and in the hospital. Mm-hmm. Periodically she'd go home with a nurse, but then come back, because this is where she wanted to be, and she knew she couldn't live, and that was where she wanted to die. And she did.
Interesting story.
I was married here.
Oh.
And lived here, and she was still living. In fact, she lived to see my son, the first baby.
How many children have you had?
3.
3?
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing now?
Stanley took over his father's business. It is under a different name now, and it's, well, you'll know when I tell you, Carpetland.
Oh, yeah, I do. Okay.
Okay.
Very familiar name. I have some Carpetland carpet in my family room.
All right, Stan was the first of the franchises. He and Rick Meyer, who was of German descent too. Mm-hmm. But the main office opened out of Munster. Stan was the first franchise. Rick came out, and my husband's ill and has been for 18 years as an invalid. And he approached Fred and wanted to start his franchise and wanted Fred's store. And Stan was in the business, and he was through college. And this is what happened. It was turned into the first Carpetland store in the whole franchise. Stan is here, and then my daughter, who's in the middle, Julie, went to the University of Missouri, came out, took her little portfolio and walked into Chicago and got herself a job, and has been there ever since. Mm-hmm. Who was she with? Montgomery Ward first, I think, and then to the Tribune, Chicago Tribune, and was with them. She was selling what they do here now, that far back. The Tribune sold the newspaper as part of the public school system, your education system. And that was what Julie did. Into the teachers and into the classrooms. And they sold the newspaper into the school system. And she did that, I don't know, several years. Then when things began to go bad not too long ago, they began to close down and clean out. And that job no longer existed. And Julie went to the Chicago Daily News. And was selling advertising, had her own clients. When the news chain was closed, as you know,
Yeah, a lot of closings
Julie
in Chicago.
was sent right over to the Sun-Times because that's part of the field enterprise. Never put out to work, and she is working today. Still, she has her own accounts, her advertising accounts. She just bought a combination. David is the youngest.
David, the historian?
He's a student. He is the scholar. He really is.
And he's teaching in Chicago.
Martin Luther King High School. He may be leaving. I don't know. He's a little disturbed with what's going on in the school, and it's bothering him, and he may get out. And he decides what he can do. And he says he won't teach. He doesn't want it. He says, as long as I teach, it's going to be in Martin Luther King High School, or I don't want to teach. And he has two very fine men with him. Principal and assistant principal. They were moved up, and the principal wants to stay with him, where he is in more of, I don't want to say exactly the word. What's the word I want? Are we on there?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Being recorded for posterity.
Yeah. I don't know what David will do, but he loves what he does.
But he's teaching black history.
No,
Oh, I thought you said that his field is black history.
that's his field.
His field.
Mm-hmm.
But Martin Luther King, there aren't too many people that want whites to teach black history.
No, they don't want it. But he has loved his work and gets along beautifully with his students. And I've asked him, have you ever had problems? Are you ever afraid? He said, never. Never, because they respect David. Because he works right with them. His senior students turn that thing off. Give you any more information, but I don't know what to tell you about Muncie that you don't know.
Well, if we think of anything else during our concluding remarks, we can put the machine back on. This has been Warren Vanderhill speaking with Rachel Lipp in Fort Wayne, March 2nd, 1970.